Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to be exploring the complexities of life, legacy, and inevitable loss.
And we're doing it through a narrative that is just surprisingly sharp when it comes to things like cosmic oblivion and, of all things, teenage love.
Yeah, we're really unpacking a core philosophical tension here. This question of whether we should live for a heroic legacy or for, a more intimate connection.
And that conflict is really embodied in our two central figures. First, you have Hazel Grace Lancaster. She's 16, she's dependent on an oxygen tank, and she's completely obsessed with one particular book.
And then there's Augustus Waters, or Gus, 17, incredibly charismatic, an osteosarcoma survivor with a prosthetic leg.
And they meet the setting is just ripe with symbolic irony, isn't it?
Oh, completely. It's a support group in a church basement, right at the spot where the two crossbeams meet.
Which the leader, Patrick, insists on calling the literal heart of Jesus.
Right. That is a huge, almost immediate symbolic weight to place on what's about to become a very fragile teen romance.
It's a signal, I think. It tells you right away this isn't going to be a simple tragedy. It's about finding meaning in these incredibly pressurized, almost divine circumstances.
And the tension kicks off instantly with Gus's, his first big performance.
He pulls out a cigarette.
But doesn't light it. He tries to frame it as this grand metaphor. He says something like, you put the killing thing right between your teeth, but you don't give it the power to do its killing.
And Hazel she sees right through it. She immediately dismisses it as vanity.
She actually calls it his hamartia, his fatal flaw. She points out how absurd it is to support tobacco companies for a hollow metaphor, especially for someone like him.
So that core conflict between, say, performative heroism and just brutal, honest reality, it's right there in that first moment.
Absolutely. The story uses something as simple and visceral as a cigarette to introduce this huge philosophical battle, the hero versus the realist.
And that tension just expands from there into their deepest existential fears. For Hazel, she doesn't just see herself as a patient, she views herself as a grenade.
Right. Her whole anxiety is that she's destined to blow up and inflict pain on those she loves. She knows the ending is coming, and she can already see the damage she's going to cause.
And she gets this idea from her observation that depression isn't really a side effect of cancer.
It's a side effect of dying.
Exactly. And she has proof, in a way. Gus's ex-girlfriend, Caroline Mathers, who died, was apparently miserable and hurtful because of what she called her asshole tumor.
So Hazel thinks to love her is to eventually inflict that same kind of wound on Gus.
Meanwhile, Gus is fighting his own battle, but his is with oblivion. He is completely obsessed with the fear of being forgotten.
He needs to leave a mark, a great heroic mark on the world, so that his existence resonates on some grand scale.
But Hazel, she's taking her philosophical cues from her third best friend, this reclusive author, Peter Van Houten.
And he's taught her to accept the inevitability of cosmic oblivion. She finds real comfort in the idea that, the universe will end and everything everyone has ever done will have been for naught. Why fight it?
Gus finds this just captivating, but also completely terrifying. And we see a real, raw release of all this pain when their friend Isaac's story comes to a head.
Yeah, Isaac is losing his eyes to cancer, and on top of that, his girlfriend Monica dumps him. He enters what the book calls a psychotic episode.
And Gus, instead of trying to calm him down, he just gives him permission for destruction. He hands him his own basketball trophies and says, try something that breaks.
It's such a critical moment because it introduces this raw truth that they're all struggling with.
Pain demands to be felt, a direct quote from Van Houten's novel. It connects that external act of rage, smashing trophies, to the internal need to just stop pretending everything is fine.
So if existential pain demands to be felt, then Hazel's next move is to try and impose some kind of order on all that chaos.
Which brings us directly to her obsession with Peter Van Houten's novel, An Imperial Affliction, AIA.
It's her Bible, basically. Yeah. And it ends mid-sentence, which drives her crazy. She has to know what happens next, not just for the characters, but for herself.
She needs that narrative closure because her own life isn't going to have a neat ending.
And this need for answers is what drives Gus's grand gesture. He uses his Genie Foundation wish.
The novel's version of Make-A-Wish.
Right, which he earned after his amputation. And he doesn't use it for himself. He uses it to take Hazel to Amsterdam to finally meet Van Houten.
And this whole trip is Gus's attempt to write a perfect, heroic chapter for their relationship. The metaphors are everywhere.
Oh, totally. The orange blanket, the Rick Smith's jersey, the picnic near that sculpture. The Funky Bones one?
which Gus points out forces kids to play on a skeleton, making the symbolic resonances, as he says, endless.
It's all very performative, but the actual meeting with the author just shatters that entire performance.
It's a total disaster. The search for external closure it fails spectacularly. Van Houten is not some genius sage.
Not at all. He's a pathetic, drunken recluse who just dodges all of her heartfelt questions with, like, philosophical red herrings.
Yeah, Zeno's tortoise paradox and Swedish hip-hop, of all things. He just dismisses his own work, saying he disavows everything in that putrid novel.
It's just crushing for her. But what's so fascinating is that this failure to find an external answer forces them to look inward.
Exactly. The real climax of the Amsterdam trip isn't the disaster with Van Houten. It's that quiet moment at the Anne Frank house.
When they kiss, surrounded by all that history of people hidden and oppressed, she has this realization.
That the young and the irreparably broken should just sink into love. It's a choice to embrace vulnerability, even knowing it means pain.
The trip failed to give them answers, but it succeeded in giving them real intimacy.
And then we finally understand Van Houten's cruelty. He reveals his own story. His daughter, who the character Anna was based on, died of leukemia when she was 8.
And he delivers that searing line. Grief does not change you, Hazel. It reveals you. He's just using cynicism to mask his own revealed weakness.
So the trip gave them this emotional peak, but it was also masking a tragedy that was already in motion.
Yeah. Shortly after they get back, Gus reveals his secret. The cancer is back.
And it's everywhere. The lining of his chest, his hip, his liver.
He kept it a secret because he didn't want Hazel to see him decline. It's like an inverted version of her grenade theory. Now he's the one afraid of inflicting pain by showing his vulnerability.
But once the secret is out, their love becomes, well, grounded in this brutal honesty. And Gus gives her this powerful counterpoint to the whole grenade idea.
He tells her, "It would be a privilege to have my heart broken by you."
He's choosing the pain of intimacy over the safety of just being alone. He's making a conscious choice.
And this is where things get really interesting, because his physical decline starts to systematically strip away all of his tools for heroic performance.
It all culminates in that just utterly humiliating incident at the gas station.
The Speedway. He's desperate to do one little thing myself. Just buy a pack of cigarettes, so he leaves the house in the middle of the night.
But he collapses, and his G-tube, the feeding tube that basically signifies his total physical dependence, it malfunctions.
It's the ultimate loss of dignity. He's lying in his own mess, having failed at the smallest, most mundane task. And he looks up at Hazel, just humiliated.
And asks, where is my chance to be somebody's Peter Van Houten? The need for that legacy is just colliding so violently with the reality of his body's betrayal.
That desperate need for a legacy is what drives him to orchestrate his own pre-funeral, the last good day.
He makes Isaac and Hazel deliver their eulogies while he's still alive to hear them. He's just clinging to that validation, to the idea that he won't be forgotten.
And the eulogies themselves perfectly capture that split, right? The personal view versus the public, heroic one.
Isaac's speech is intensely personal. He says he won't take robot eyes because he doesn't want to see a world without Gus in it.
And Hazel, she praises their epic love story.
But then the minister's speech, which Hazel just despises, it focuses on Gus's courageous battle and him being healed and whole in heaven.
She completely rejects that narrative. She feels like it minimizes the actual flawed, complicated person that he really was. It was just a simplification to make the living feel better, not to honor the dead.
After Gus dies, there's one last piece to the puzzle. His father finds a notebook, but the first few pages are torn out.
Gus had mailed his final writings, his own epilogue, to the one person who had disappointed them so much, to Van Houten.
And Van Houten, shockingly, shows up at the funeral. He gives Hazel the missing pages, and with them, Gus's final analysis.
Gus argues that the marks humans usually leave behind are actually scars, things like minimals and dictatorships, that the search for a grand, permanent mark is often just destructive.
This is the ultimate insight. The search for a big legacy is a distraction. True heroism isn't measured by history books.
It's measured by the intimacy of paying attention, of just noticing things in the small, fragile world right in front of you.
And he ends with that one profound statement that really validates their entire relationship.
You don't get to choose if you get hurt in this world, old man, but you do have some say in who hurts you. I like my choices.
He chose the wound. He chose the pain that came with being loved by Hazel.
So what's the distilled knowledge here? I mean, it really boils down to this. Legacy is vanity.
And intimacy is triumph. We choose the wound.
Right. Gus, who is so driven by his fear of oblivion, eventually realizes that heroism isn't about permanence, it's about depth. And Hazel, who is so afraid of being a grenade.
She learns that choosing to be loved, even knowing the inevitable explosion is coming, is the most defiant act of all.
It brings you back to Gus's idea that some infinities are larger than other infinities.
Yeah, their time together was brief, but they found a brief but still infinite forever in that shared experience. They really maximized the value of their finite time.
And for a final thought, we have Hazel's mother. After Gus's death, she decides to pursue a master's in social work. And she tells Hazel, as long as either of us is alive, I will be your mother. Even when you die, I will still be your mom.
That pivot from focusing entirely on managing grief to finding a new outward-looking purpose, it raises an important question for you, the listener.
What knowledge or purpose, discovered through loss and fragmentation, can become a new, enduring foundation for the life that, well, that must go on?